You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by Callum and James. How you going, boys?
Not bad.
All right. So tonight we're talking Birdeater. Now, Birdeater is one of the movies we saw at the Melbourne International Film Festival. We touched on it briefly in our last episode.
Yeah.
But we were lucky enough to get an interview with the director. So this movie is getting more of a deep dive.
Yeah. But obviously...
And it's one of the more impressive movies we saw.
We enjoyed it a lot. But also, obviously, like, it doesn't have a wide release yet, so we're not going to do any spoilers or anything.
I was thinking about that. Even though we're not doing any story spoilers, we touch on themes and kind of, I guess, angles of the story in a roundabout way. So it's not completely spoiler. Like
it's not like plot spoilers, but it's like
spoilers. There are vague thematic spoilers.
Yeah.
So we can't really avoid that.
we didn't want to really hold on to the interview until the movie comes out proper. So we thought while we're still in the MIFF mode of our show, before we move on to packs and other things we have planned, we thought we'd talk about it now, play you the interview now, and then maybe when it does get a wide release, we can do like a spoiler episode or something.
Yeah. Having said all that, even though we talk about themes in the movie that people may consider kind of spoilery in a way, it doesn't detract from the film as well.
No. We mentioned some characters in the interview and like what we thought about them. So that's won't really change your
in fact, it might enhance your in some ways.
Yeah.
But yeah, look. So we thoroughly enjoyed this movie. Do we want to go straight into the interview, or do we want to discuss it a little bit?
No,
first?
We'll talk about it a bit because we talked about it last week when we were talking about a lot of the other MIFF movies we saw, and we saw a lot of movies, and this is written by Jack Clark and co-directed by Jack Clark and Jim Weir, two young guys from Sydney. This is their first feature film.
Yes.
And look, I'll be honest, when two young directors are making their feature film debut and they're Australian and making an Australian film, I'm a bit more nervous than I would be going into maybe an American movie. That's maybe a problem with me.
We've discussed this recently in the last month or so, where the culture cringe at the moment is not a thing.
No.
Like the Aussie movies we've seen recently that have been coming out recently have been solid.
Yeah, we mentioned Talk to Me last week. We mentioned it in the interview with Jack, and we'll talk about that next week. But yeah, there has been some solid Australian stuff coming out. And there always is, but it's just like there's a history of, first-time directors, that's already, can they
shaky
pull it
ground,
off?
Yeah.
And also Australian indie movie, oh no.
Yeah.
But the premise or because we tried to go in knowing nothing about it, so the images we saw or the vibe we got from it was interesting enough that we were like, hey, let's go see it. And it ended up being one of our favorite movies of the festival.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that it was made by these two young guys from Australia and was, an indie Australian movie, I think it makes it even better.
I'm glad we got the opportunity to do this interview for this film too. We would have enjoyed any interview we were given. But this movie...
It's such an interesting film.
It was interesting and thematically dense is the wrong word, but there was enough going on for us. It was like, we had questions for this guy. Like, we want to talk about this movie.
Even just like technically,
like
it was impressive. If you don't delve into the actual story or whatever, like they did a good job technically. And actually the screening we went to, we were lucky because it had a Q&A with the lead actor was there, the two directors, the producer, the cinematographer, and the composer.
Yeah.
I hope I'm not missing anyone else.
I'm sure we're missing some people.
No, I said producer.
I'm sure we're missing some people. But
well, I hope I didn't miss anyone.
There.
Yeah, there's a lot, but and they did a really great Q&A where they talked about the behind the scenes of the film and how hard it was to shoot,
and basically answered all our questions.
And answered all the questions we had because we had the interview set up with the directors for after, but obviously it wasn't recorded, and I think we talk about it in the interview. It wasn't recorded, so it's like, okay, we can ask the same questions, but I think that Q&A where you got the like the cinematographer was talking about his process, and the movie looks gorgeous.
Oh, yeah. It's
and
colourful.
The composer and his kind of take on things, and the score. One of the things we highlight in the interview, one of the things we talked about after the movie ended, was the score.
Yeah.
Because
it's an indie movie trap where the score makes or breaks, and we talk about that.
But that's what I was going to say is like, okay, the movie looks great, the acting's great, the story, it's well written, whatever. The score...
It has no right.
It has no right to be this good and this strange. It could have easily been a traditional kind of thriller score.
Especially since it was at least one of the first projects of the composer for a feature film.
I'm assuming it's his first feature film, yeah.
So he comes out swinging straight out of the gate with this one.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that, like, he was talking about in the Q&A, like, he recorded it in his bedroom and, like, would send it to the directors and then... And, you know, I guess, I think he talked about how he's working on a short timeline. I'm sure the whole movie was on a very tight budget and tight timeline. And they talked about it in the Q&A about, you know, getting flooded out of their shooting locations and, like, shooting a bit and then, like, 2 months later coming back and shooting the other side, more coverage of the same scene.
Yeah.
And obviously they had to deal with COVID as well. So, yeah, like...
There were struggles in the making of this movie.
Yeah, but...
Considering they were able to navigate all of that and still release a quality product.
Yeah.
Like, I'm very interested to see where they go now.
Not only a quality product, but a product that, like, exceeded our expectations.
Yeah.
And was like, oh, this is... I don't mean this to sound offensive. It's better than it has any right to be.
Oh, it does.
It's better than some Hollywood movies that have been coming out lately.
100%.
You know, as much as I love the MCU, and it's like, and these movies make billions of dollars, you know, it's like this movie has more meat on its bones than your standard MCU movie.
That's
and, you know,
not
it was
saying too much. Maybe
well, no,
like,
you know, it was made for a fraction of the of the cost.
But we talk about it a lot.
Fewer creative behind it.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. It's like, this is what matters in films: is the story and the characters and the like. But the fact that everything was so great in this movie, and it was also something we didn't expect because, like we said the last couple of weeks, we went to all the MIFF movies trying to know the least possible about the films we were seeing. So we wanted to go in blind, and we were like, "What is this? Is this like a horror movie? Is this like it's called Birdeater? Yeah, is it thriller?"
Well, MIFF incorrectly listed it as a horror movie on the first day. When we were checking out the program, we would have seen that. Yeah. That's where we would have gone in expecting a horror movie.
Probably, yeah. And also, like,
we discussed
a couple
that
of the images, I saw a couple of the images. I'm like, this looks creepy.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's in the bush, and it's just like...
The bush is already creepy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. You got, not only do you have bloody monsters, but you got, like, you know, Ivan Milat and stuff like that. But, yeah... So I think we talk about, like, we were watching it going like, what is this? This is not what we thought. And that made the experience even better. Because we were like, and the music is so, what do you call it, Nathan?
Ethereal doom jazz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we were just
like... your skin.
Yeah, and we were just like, what is this movie? This is great. This is not what we expected, and it's even better than we expected it to be. I guess we can't do spoilers. Or we won't do spoilers, and we'll go into the interview with Jack, the writer and co-director, in a minute. But I guess we should tell people, like, the general synopsis.
Yeah,
it's
very vaguely.
It's a surprise birthday.
It's a young couple engaged.
Yeah, it's like a bucks party.
It's a bucks party, not a birthday.
Yeah.
The groom to be has like a house in the bush, like a cabin in the bush, and him and his mates go up there to get drunk and do bachelor party stuff.
It's a bucks party that goes wrong.
Yeah. But he also invites his fiance to come with them, and one of the other guys, and it becomes this sort of
like masculinity, toxic masculinity.
The weekend goes off the rails, basically. That's all we'll say. And we didn't realize that the movie perfectly juggles its tones. Like, it's very funny, but also kind of scary. It's not a horror movie, but also
It's not a straight comedy.
Yeah, it's kind of a thriller.
It's like a black comedy drama.
Thriller, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, just
go watch it, please.
Yeah, so we'll talk about it after we play the interview. But I was on the Cinema Nova website. It says it's coming out November 23rd. I don't know if that's the official date or if it's changing or whatever. But keep an eye out if you're a movie fan. Keep an eye out for when Birdeater is released in Australia. It'll probably go to the Nova, to the Kino, the Palace chains. So,
and we talk about it in the interview too, but they're pretty confident it'll come to streaming eventually. So if you miss out,
well, that's actually one thing we talk about in the interview is it's distributed or co-distributed by Umbrella, who are really good with physical media. So that's hopefully this movie will get a good
Umbrella turned out for MIFF.
Yeah, they did.
Oh yeah, well all the Australian movies we saw that we mentioned earlier, but they're they're one of our main. But the good thing is, they do good physical releases, and they have their own streaming service now that they started. It's in beta, I think.
Cool.
I need to get on top of that.
Yeah, I'm signed on to it, but I don't have time to watch. It's crazy. We do a movie thing, and I never have time to watch movies anymore. But yeah, so yeah, it'll get a release eventually. So just keep an eye on our social media, because when it does come out, we'll be
simping for it,
promoting it.
Yeah.
And also we'll hopefully be able to see it again and take some of our other friends to see it, and hopefully they'll enjoy it as much as us. Just for more context, which I think we mentioned in the interview, Jack Clark and Jim Weir co-directed the movie. Jack Clark wrote the screenplay, but I think him and Jim did the story together.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Jim couldn't make it to this interview. We did it over Zoom. So yeah, it's just Jack, and he was really nice enough to.
It's always awkward, trying to navigate something.
Well, that's the thing. It was
Zoom.
In the morning, and he was in his hotel room. And
no, he wasn't even in his hotel room, man. He was outside.
Exactly. Yeah. He was
he was in the street.
He was getting kicked out of his hotel room.
And we're just this is not a great time.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
We're like, we can do this another time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
thank you to Jack. And
Jim shout out to Jack. Thanks very much
for giving us the opportunity.
Yeah. We also mention the character Dylan in the movie. We mentioned last week Ben Hunter, who plays Dylan.
He's fantastic.
He's fantastic. He steals the show. I guess also while we're on it, Mackenzie Fernley plays Louis, the main character. Shabana Aziz plays Irene, the fiance, the love interest. And a lot of other great actors, which we won't go into. But it's 100% worth seeing. Go out and support it when it comes out. Obviously, I would have liked to, during MIFF, to release our reviews and interviews at the time. Watch a movie and then talk about it and release. So people who are going to MIFF can maybe next year and the year after, because this is our first time sort of doing MIFF like this as the Tuesday review. And we've got other stuff planned, other conventions and stuff and PAX, like I mentioned. So hopefully, as we get better at this, we'll be able to. We'll be able
our workflow will be
exactly,
improved.
yeah. Because this interview, it's in a awkward place now, where it's after MIFF, so you can't see the movie. Yeah. But it's before the general release, so you can't see the movie. But yeah, we didn't want to hold on to it too long, so we're gonna play the interview with Jack now. And then afterwards we
can just discuss the experience.
We'll wrap it up. Yeah.
A content warning, just generally for this.
I forgot about that.
for the interview. We do discuss themes that people may find distressing.
Yes.
Such as, I guess...
abuse, domestic abuse.
Domestic violence and domestic abuse, those kinds of themes. And there is some bad language.
I dropped the C-bomb more than once. It's very relevant to the movie, but you have to see the movie to understand what I'm talking about. For listeners,
it is censored for the radio. There is a radio edit.
It's not a spoiler, but you have to see the movie to kind of know what I'm talking about.
James
I didn't just drop the C-bomb
No,
for
James
the fun
says
of
something that rhymes with dog stunt.
it. Dog stunt, yeah. I love those dogs and their stunts.
Right.
Doing flips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please enjoy
But
the interview.
we're on radio, so
Yeah.
we said this is the censored version. Hey, you know what we can do? When the movie comes out and we do full spoilers, we can do an uncensored interview. We can release that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be back after this. Please enjoy the interview.
Okay, so we're talking to Jack, one of the directors from Birdeater this morning, and we were lucky enough to have seen the the screenings, I should say, last night at the Kino.
Yeah.
And I think, Jack, it is a wonderful movie, especially to be seen with an audience.
Yeah.
It wasn't what we were expecting going in. For some reason, we had it in our head it was a horror movie. Because we've been trying to go through MIFF by not sort of reading or watching any material.
Yeah.
Just going in blind.
Cool.
And we assumed it was a horror movie, and when we got into it, we were very wrong, but also kind of right. What would you consider like the genre of this film to be, just generally?
I mean, it's tough. It's tough to really define it. I think MIFF actually had it listed as a horror on the first day or two of the program, and we got them to change it. Probably the cleanest definition is that it's a psychological thriller, but it is, a black comedy. It is a psychological thriller. It does have elements of horror in it. It's also an ensemble film. So it is difficult to categorize, but that was something that we were kind of interested in right from the start. And it's a hard ask sometimes for an audience to come and be a part of a film without knowing how to categorize it. Yeah. But I think when an audience is in a film, they enjoy that feeling, that kind of like constant seesawing between different tones and genres is really unusual and really exciting.
I think it's one of the movie...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, probably the cleanest categorization would be psychological thriller. I don't think you'd have any problems calling it that, but it is kind of a lot of things.
I do think we probably hadn't laughed as much as we had in this movie with some of our other MIFF films.
Yeah. It's been nice to see the way the comedy has been received, and it's being received differently in every single screening. I mean, the one that you guys were at last night was very different to the first one we had on Saturday night. Just in terms of like how much the audience is laughing, or when they're laughing, or who they're laughing at. There was a screening at Sydney Film Festival that we had where people were kind of laughing from top to tail, like the entire film, which was a bit weird. It almost made us uncomfortable.
Is that because people are just uncomfortable with the level of the humor in the movie?
Yeah, I think so. I think that people are laughing because they're not sure how they're supposed to react, and so it's like it's easier to laugh.
Yeah.
We met up with a friend afterwards who hadn't seen the movie, and we did mention like UK Office style cringe. And I think there is that level of like people don't know how to react.
Yeah, they kind of like cringe drama, or like anxiety drama is like a weird subgenre at the moment as well. Just kind of like really stressful dinners. Yeah, like what genre is that? It's hard to say because straight drama feels like it's underselling it, or not being specific enough.
Or the Uncut Gems style of just constant anxiety.
Yeah.
But that's also interesting what you said. Do you think there's a big difference between like a Sydney audience and a Melbourne audience in reaction?
I'm sure there's something in it. I don't know enough yet to be able to say what that difference would be. I don't. Well, I mean, what do you guys think? What does this feel like a Sydney film to you guys, or?
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, maybe a little.
I wouldn't say that. It's definitely. I'd say, look, me and James specifically don't probably relate to it as much as, I guess, people that maybe party more or are more interested in some of the activities that the guys are involved in. But that's not necessarily a Melbourne versus Sydney thing. I think it's just kind of like a personality type thing. I think it's the same everywhere.
Yeah, it probably would relate to an audience's understanding of private school culture or those sorts of if people can recognize the men in the film and like where they're recognizing them from, I think that will probably would be the biggest sort of dictating an audience's reaction.
Yeah, we definitely know people like that or have been to parties like that.
And then you quickly don't want to know them anymore. We did stay around for the Q&A yesterday, so we're sorry if we're repeating some questions that were asked.
No.
But it'd be nice to get them on recording too for our show.
No, of course.
We do want to touch on the amazing score. We kind of refer to amongst ourselves as like ethereal doom jazz. And it's kind of like sweeping but also really heavy, and it's got kind of those those brass instruments you don't really hear all that much in films anymore. What made you make the decision to be like, we want these instruments or this feeling in the score, like because we don't usually hear that much saxophone anymore and that kind of stuff?
No, like woodwinds I think are a really underutilized choice for independent scoring, because if you pick like we did, like a really good woodwind player, they can play like a lot of instruments just with one artist. Like we'd have a saxophonist in and he's playing 4 different saxophones. He could also play bass, clarinet, and you have all of that. You have all that range. So just on a practical level, it gives you a lot of options. But we were interested in like fairly traditional scoring for the first sort of third of the film, where it might sort of lull a audience into a false sense of security. There's a lot at play as well. Like indie films, like I'm saying, don't usually have a certain type of score, and I think an audience like responds to a piece sonically very quickly. Like if the quality of the sound recording is bad, like if it's just like a lone piano kind of as the score, these are all kind of check marks in their head that categorize the film as not having much money. So we spent a lot of time and resources like dedicating ourselves to a score that didn't like betray the film immediately or leverage some kind of unfair expectation against us straight away. So we're like, well, let's make it quite a dense score from the outset. Let's have a really big track at the start. Let's follow that up with a piece of copyrighted music for the title, like the credit scene. And then people are going to be like fully and quite subconsciously like surrendered to the film, I think, without thinking about, how much this costs.
Well, it was effective. It threw us off almost immediately, because it's not what we were expecting going into an indie film.
Yeah, it works with the rest of the tone of the film, of how you're like, is this a comedy? Is this a thriller?
Totally.
The score being kind of unconventional or unsettling feeds into that.
100%. It means that the audience is a lot more pliable, because the score can be really prescriptive, can really sort of give an audience the answers in terms of how you're supposed to feel in a certain scene. But saxophone has a fairly ambiguous quality to it. Like it can sometimes be really romantic, it can sometimes be super aggressive and like has a lot of breathy kind of guttural sounds. Other times it can be very kind of like snake-like, very like mischievous. So it has all these different facets you can play with.
It also helps, like as an audience member, like you said, like music usually tells you what you're supposed to feel in the scene, and it's like very handholdy, especially in like a traditional kind of comedy or something. And I like how this score, it's like it's not treating the audience like an idiot. It's just like it's like come up with your own feeling and interpretation. I like that.
Like there's this film I saw recently. You can notice over prescriptive scoring in older indie films. Like there's a film I watched recently called Smooth Talk, It's directed by Joyce Chopra. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's a very interesting coming of age film with this young Laura Dern, and it pivots 2/3 into it about a girl like on holidays. She's looking for like a boyfriend. She's looking for an older guy to hang out with because it's sort of her coming of age. Like she's like 17 or 18 or something. And the first 2/3 is like her and her friends trying to like hook up with local guys. And in the third act, it pivots into this very weird, very intense set piece where a man has like followed her home and is trying to get her to get into his car and go for a drive. And it almost plays out in real time. And it's such an incredible tonal shift, but the score is just like so heavy. It's like telling us that now it's a scary movie. Where it's like, I think that tonal shift would have been just so much wilder if the score wasn't just giving us the answers. But it's like, no, it is supposed to go this way. This was all designed that you're supposed to feel uncomfortable now. It's so much more exciting for an audience to be in that place and then be like questioning it actively.
Well, I think there was a lot of questioning in this movie because, like you mentioned in the Q&A last night, that at the start of the movie, you want people to seem sympathetic, you want it to seem romantic, you want it to kind of be like a romantic love story, and then by the end of the movie, you realize they're all pretty terrible people. And the movie has a lot to say about toxic masculinity, kind of abusive and relationships, and like issues with coercive relationships and that kind of stuff. How did you kind of go into this movie approaching those themes? Like what led you to those themes?
Well, a lot of it is about like what you're saying about everybody being awful characters. Like it's true, and but something that we were really aware of at all times as an audience, characters' intelligence and how that's represented on screen. Because we had an issue, me and Jim, with films that were about toxic male traits in relationships that have seemed to have been really popular over the last 5 to 10 years because they are quite distancing for a male audience because it's easy for us to distance ourselves from the men that are depicted because they usually have an act which we would call kind of like the underlining moment, which is just like they take a very clear step, which is this is too far and now I'm no longer this guy. So this film is not about me because I don't do those things, you know. I don't we're very careful not to depict the relationship as physically abusive because we think that that's such an easy out from a male audience. They're like, well, you know, I don't hit girls, so this is obviously not about me.
It's definitely subtle.
Yeah, we were interested in finding somebody that was like, that Mackenzie could theoretically perform Louis as if he was somebody that is like truly just hard done by. Like this whole thing is a giant misunderstanding. So when we talked to Mackenzie, we gave him notes and we did script breakdowns with him. It was literally a version of the film where this entire thing is just a huge misunderstanding. And Louis really is an incredibly caring, dedicated partner who's trying his best to do what he thinks his partner needs to get better. And everybody has just got him like completely wrong. But that's only possible with, the antagonism that you're going for is like very, very subtle. But on that, we were very interested in using intelligence as a way to depict and antagonistic behavior as well, because we didn't want a villain that was kind of Machiavellian, or he had these kind of really intelligent plans and designs that he was putting into action. We think it's a lot easier to see the humanity in an evil decision if you can see that person kind of tripping over their words, or if they're trying to construct a plan, but it's like kind of half-baked and things go wrong because they've just made like stupid, unintelligent decisions, but we can relate to those mistakes. So then I think that sort of lets us in. So there's a few different, and then I think people respond to Dylan differently as well because because there's an honesty to his character that perhaps isn't present in somebody like Louis or Charlie, where there's like so many layers of performance.
It's interesting because Ben Hunter, who plays Dylan, I think is the MVP of the movie and steals the show.
Yeah, he's great.
But also because of our misconception of like, what is this? Is this a horror thriller?
We thought he was the villain.
We were like, is he going to be ultimately the villain? And yeah, like you said, it's like he's a much more.
Well, you fell for it. That's what we wanted to do. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, we wanted right from his first scene, like find even just like his introduction is just to like use all of the iconography we could to just be like an audience is like, okay, now this is the villain. This is the guy who's gonna everything up.
Bad news.
And he is. He is. I mean, he is the guy who continually is escalating the night. But it's just because of information that we learn about Louis or like information about other characters that Dylan's behavior doesn't really change. It's more just we understand the context of his friendship now or the context of Louis. And that pivots our sympathies. And Dylan, almost all the time for an audience, is never people are quite fond of Dylan by the end of the film. But again, I think that's like a performance thing as well. Like, as in the character himself he is obviously performing like a heightened version of himself. But there's definitely an honesty to his actions. Like, he's fairly unthinking. He's fairly instinctive. He just sort of does things. Versus somebody like Louis, he can tell every single word is a performance, and every single word is manicured and is exactly what he thinks it should be. And that makes us really struggle to trust him. So people latch onto Dylan just because it's just like I think they can see that he's not hiding anything from us. He's just reacting instinctively, you know?
Yeah. Also, in a way, he's the funny character and he's like the chaotic character. So you kind of gravitate towards him just from his pure force of will almost.
Yeah. People like to watch those characters. They're a lot of fun.
Yeah. On another sort of topic, shifting a little bit now. I don't know how much time we have for this, but I wanted to ask.
Do you have to go at a specific time or?
No, I probably have to head in about 10 minutes. I've got another 10. Okay. That's cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. I just want to ask, this movie was crowdfunded. Can you talk us through some of the challenges that you had getting the movie funded through crowdfunding versus kind of, I guess, the more standard way of finding someone to help you with financing for a movie?
So it wasn't crowdfunded. It was independently financed. So it came from, a dozen odd different types of funding. So we did have some crowdfunding. We did have, me and Jim put in a fair bit of our own money. And we had 3 different production companies from Sydney come on board. And then we had donations from just private investors who were interested. So it was a whole kind of mishmash of whatever we could get, basically. But it was arduous. It's a tough road. It took us a year or so to raise the funds during pre. But Breathless Films was the first company to come on board, and they gave us a fair bit of money to sort of kickstart things. But once they were on board, it meant that we could chat to other people. So they sort of really helped us get through the door to chat to other production companies. This was a new production company that didn't really even exist, but just the fact that there were names, they were attached, they had given money, suddenly people were responding to our emails. So we didn't use any state funding options, Screen New South Wales or Screen Australia or anything. So because that's kind of a more traditional route. But it is just tough. It's tough in its own sort of different way. It's quite a prolonged process. So we had less money, but it meant that we could really sort of get things off the ground, on our own timeline, quite quickly. So
in terms of logistics, did you guys write the script and then shop it around, or did you talk to someone first and they said, do you have an idea, or how?
So Breathless posted that they were looking for micro budget feature ideas, and we had a page document that I'd written about Birdeater, which we showed to them, and they were really interested, but they were saying, look, like the other projects we're talking to have entire scripts, kind of, where's the rest of it? So we had to go away for like 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10, like there was like 10 days where we had to build out like a full treatment really quickly for them to just like get a idea of the scope of what we're looking at. And they didn't option it then, but they got basically as close to optioning the script from them as possible. And then we wrote the scripts. I wrote the script from that stage. And by the time they had seen like a second or third draft or something, they like bought the script.
Yeah.
So it was kind of writing for them. After they had expressed interest in sort of the very small kernel of the idea. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So what has your last couple of weeks been? I'm sure you're exhausted after doing the festivals. No,
I love it. It's been great. I mean, like, I've been loving MIFF so far. Like, seeing a ton of films and a lot of Australian films.
Yeah.
Here this year, which is great.
Aussie films are kicking out of the park this year.
Yeah, they are. There's just heaps. I mean, I didn't see it at the festival. I just saw Talk to Me before MIFF.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, and then seeing Monolith tonight. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, which is great to see. But no, but it's been really great. It's mostly been enjoyable for the like meeting other filmmakers, and seeing what they're up to.
I also saw that, didn't they add an extra screening of Birdeater?
They did. So we have an extra screening on Wednesday night, which is exciting. Yeah, at the Forum, which seems like a cool venue.
Yeah, it's good there.
Yeah, so what is that usually? Is this like usually like a music venue or?
I don't know.
I think it's like they do kind of stage stuff.
Yeah, I think it's more stage, like it's like a old kind of.
Yeah, right.
All different kind of venues just get transformed into cinemas for MIFF, so it's hard to tell sometimes.
Yeah. No, it's cool. There's tons of cinemas around.
Yeah,
even if they're temporary.
So what's next for Birdeater? Like if we're pushing our buttons a little bit before you head off.
Do you have a wide release planned, or it's still too early?
Yeah, no, we have so we've been picked up by Umbrella for local distribution.
Oh wow.
Which is great, which means that we'll have a theatrical run, and then hopefully be able to show the film on like on a streaming service or on like Binge or Stan or something like that. So yeah, no, it should have a short but passionate cinema run. Whether that's end of this year or start of next year, that's a little bit up in the air at the moment, just based on because it depends on all sorts of things. Because we want to hopefully get the film into some other festivals too, some international festivals as well. So it just depends on that. But yeah, we're definitely seeing a theatrical run of it here in Australia, which would be great.
We'll definitely be seeing it again.
Yeah, we're definitely excited to see it again, and we're also hoping that, especially with Umbrella doing it, we're hoping that like it gets like a physical Blu-ray.
Yeah,
release.
Absolutely. I mean, if the Blu-ray is kind of going to be the definitive version of it, right? Like if you go on the streaming platform, it does kind of change the way the film looks, and it's even though if that's the way most people will see the film. I'm a big proponent of physical media.
Especially if you guys get to do some commentary or behind the scenes stuff, that'll be great.
Yeah, I'd love to do that actually.
I have two more questions. Nathan, do you want to ask anything first?
I was going to ask what's next for you and Jim, but that's kind of like getting ahead of myself.
No.
Because I'm sure you're kind of still wrapped up in Birdeater. But do you have an idea of what's coming next?
I mean, yes, we've been wrapped up in Birdeater, but to put it into perspective, we've been wrapped up in it, 3.5 years. So we've definitely got plenty of brain space at the moment to be thinking about new projects. Because I mean, all the hard work's done at this point. Like this part's really fun, like showing people Birdeater, but like day to day, it's not taking up the same emotional, creative space anymore. So no, I've been doing tons of writing. There's a lot of ideas that we want to make. So we've got like eight or nine films that we're like kicking back and forth. But the reality of like what we'll make next, we're honing in on that and showing some people some ideas that we're working on right now, which is great. But playing in similar ballparks, probably going a little bit harder into thriller territory.
Okay.
Interesting.
So we're looking at a thriller at the moment, which is a schoolies thriller.
Nice.
So it's like similar characters, some similar kind of tonal ideas, but really pushing the boat out into like firm, like intense thriller elements is something that I think we're keen to try. Like we sort of dipped our toes into that a little bit with Birdeater and felt like we were pulling back on the reins a bit. So we kind of just want to like fully commit to a thriller premise, I think.
Sounds good.
Yeah, looking forward to it. So just a couple more things. One, thank you and thank Jim as well for introducing me to Drew Carey.
Oh yeah.
I was not familiar before finding out that you guys directed a music video for them.
Yeah, we did.
And now that's all I've been listening to. So thank you for
great.
that.
That's right. Yeah, Drew's great.
Also, I couldn't find your short film Threshold anywhere. So if
we're going to put it up online, so that's
great.
Yeah, we're going to put me and Jim had a short film each. We've got Threshold. We also had Julia coming out the year after.
Yeah.
And we'll put them both up on our Vimeo for everyone to see.
Nice.
This month, I reckon, because we're really proud of those shorts. But you can see a lot of like elements, I think, of Birdeater from them.
Yeah. Oh well, I did notice the actor who plays Lady Lazarus's driver is from your guys' previous films, short films.
Oh yes, he is.
The driver,
he is. He was our kind of our main guy during film school.
Yeah.
He was always in our shorts. He's great, Will Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Cool. He was our muse during afters.
That's cool that you brought him back.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Two more things, but one thing we might have to cut out for the live portion. But one more thing is, did you do Barbenheimer?
I did. I didn't do the like strict double feature. I did them day apart.
Mm-hmm.
But first opening weekend, it was hectic. It was so busy, but it was great to see.
What did you do first?
I saw Barbie first. And I saw Oppenheimer second.
Oh, it's okay to be wrong.
Incorrect.
I guess we'll have to cut this interview short now.
Yeah,
sorry.
Wrong answer.
I don't know, because I think that like, I think you're right. Actually, I think it was because I was kind of thinking about how masculine of a movie Oppenheimer is whilst watching it the first time.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it is just like a funny movie to go from after Barbie, where it's just like it's so many men, like dozens of men in a room talking about, this is the most important thing in the history of the world. This is exactly the kind of joke that like Barbie would make about like male skewing movies.
Yeah.
It's an interesting conversation. It is an interesting conversation to have with like masculinity in movies, and obviously that's the big theme of this movie. And I think a lot of people hating Barbie for weird reasons. Relating to masculinity, and it makes them feel uncomfortable. But I think that's more why we should be pushing movies like Barbie and Birdeater, because
I mean,
at the end of the day, we all know toxic people, and they know it's wrong, but they can't, I guess, shift their own ideology.
Yeah, we need to we need to keep talking and depicting masculine culture in Australian films, because like it's not going to go away. Like I think that audience needs to be spoken to, and I think that question needs to be constant. We need to constantly be sort of needling it in our but those kind of like quite specifically gendered movies as well, at least in terms of content, not necessarily audience, but content. It's so important. No, I loved. Yeah, it's crazy how many people got upset about Barbie, which I thought was just like
just stupid people being
it's stupid. Like I mean, it's just like they're eating out of their hands. I mean, there must be what all of the team like behind Barbie would have wanted. Like it's so funny. It's so great.
I'm sure your film will sometimes face similar criticisms of.
I'm sure.
They're doing nothing wrong.
Yeah, I don't see anything wrong here.
I don't see anything wrong. It looks like a good party to me.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, it's kind of unavoidable to be honest.
But yeah, we just wanted to thank you so much for spending your time with us. And
No, it's lovely.
we really, really like the film, and we can't wait to see it again. And thank Jim as well.
Yeah, sorry he couldn't come. We got kicked. We didn't realize we were getting kicked out of our hotel this morning.
That's fine.
So it was a bit of a mess.
We weren't sure this was going to happen because we were at the screening last night, and we were kind of waiting around. It's like, should we talk to Jack and Jim? Should we like butt into their conversations? We're like, no, we won't be those people.
Oh no. We're in town for the next week, so if you see us around, yeah, do come say hello.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I've got one more thing, but we might cut it out for our podcast section or radio section, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I think this is the first, if not the first, the best use of dog in a movie.
Yeah, that can't go to radio. We can have that on the radio section, James. We'll have to bleep it.
The podcast. Yeah. But honestly, because we watch, a lot of American movies with Australian characters, they don't say. And it's just like, we're always like, come on, you get it right.
It's a great word. It's a great word that, it's just like it, but it is a very specifically Australian kind of like, you can use it in so many different ways. And even at the end of that, when he says that, it's hard to tell whether or not he's saying it in an admiring way or like a negative way, or if he means it or what. It's just like such a bizarre word in Australian vernacular.
Well,
I don't know if I haven't heard it before actually either. So.
I'm just like, I was watching, I'm like, one, awesome. Two, is this the first use of dog in a movie?
Hopefully there's got to be somebody else, but it can't be many of us.
Thank you so much for giving us your time this morning.
No, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much, and hopefully we'll be able to do this again for your next movie or something like that. That would be great.
That'd be great. Yeah. We'll see you next time then.
All right. Thanks very much, Jack. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
See you later. Have a good day.
You are back live on the Tuesday Review. Did you enjoy our interview? Please let us know.
Yeah, those dogs and their stunts.
Yeah, that's it. Pardon for the technical issues for our live listeners. A little bit difficult working with community radio equipment sometimes. But
that's all right. We got there in the end.
Big thanks to Jack. I couldn't make the interview, but big thanks to Jack for giving us the interview.
Yeah. Did you like our interview? Did I sound like I had a cold to you? Do I sound like I have a cold?
I think your mic was too close to your headset mic.
Do I? I don't know. We'll see.
But thanks to everyone at MIFF. Everyone who helped at MIFF, but also especially to those who helped us organize the interview, and to Jack, and be sure to keep an eye out for Birdeater when it's released. Like I said, the Nova website has it as being released on November 23rd. If that changes, keep an eye on our social media because we'll let you know. We'll be on top of that. And hopefully we can, when the movie comes out, maybe we'll do a spoiler episode.
Yep.
And
we can go a bit deeper.
Yeah. And we can always release that interview again so it has more context after the movie's been released. And maybe we can do it uncensored so that people can hear more about the dogs and their stunts.
That's right.
No animals were harmed in the making of this movie.
So thanks to everyone who helped make this possible, and we're hoping that next time, we can sort of get more interviews and organize ourselves better so we can sort of cover MIFF as it's happening, kind of thing. So, it's not as delayed.
Let us know your thoughts on how we did for our first ever remote interview with the director. Remote's always a challenge.
We've
tried
interviewed
Zoom.
Directors in the studio, but not over Zoom.
Obviously, your chemistry with people is better in different.
Yeah, it's also because it happened quickly. Like Nathan, at first, Nathan was like, "I don't want to be on." Then he's like, "I'm going to be on." And then we were like, "Oh, we're going to do it at like 1:00." And there's like, "No, we're going to do it at 11." And then whatever.
Yeah, it worked out in the end.
But it turned out alright.
It turned out alright. I think we did a good job. It's always hard over Zoom because you don't know. You try not to talk over each other. The dynamic isn't the same as when you're in person. But I think we did a good job. Let us know. We're all out of time for tonight. Please like and share the Tuesday Review Facebook page, the threads, and the Instagram. Contact us
at Tuesday Review AU. Follow us there. Send us a message.
Let us know what you think.
You can follow Jack Clark on Instagram at jack.lark, so Jack Lark. So it sounds like Jack Clark. And you can follow Birdeater the movie at Birdeater Movie. So yeah, follow that. See when it comes out. Make sure to follow us so you know when the movie's coming out, and we'll talk about it again. And also keep an ear out because in the next few weeks we'll have a lot of more announcements, and
we've got stuff going.
Well, we're going to PAX soon, so there's going to be a lot of coverage of PAX on our social media in the next few weeks, and we've got a whole bunch of other stuff planned.
Yeah, keep an eye on the socials.
It's an exciting time to be a cousin.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.